Remember this guy? Yeah, I know a lot of y'all do. The Hudson H9. You see, the Hudson H9 came out, when it came out, I don't remember exactly when it came out, if I'm to be honest. When it came out, it kind of took the market by storm in a way that most people weren't expecting this type of innovation when it came to a striker-fire gun. You see, a lot of people were kind of getting a little bit dull on the whole plastic, fantastic, striker-fire, Glockish style guns. And in that time period, a lot of them have come out in different variations and are all generally pretty damn good. But the Hudson H9 came out and kind of took things by storm from the standpoint that you had a gun that gave you the presence of a 1911 with the functionality of a striker-fired polymer gun. That's different. And its claim to fame was the fact that its guide rod was sitting down here, giving you the ability to lower the bore access. So you have the ability to grip this gun, and this gun sits so low in your hand that essentially it makes muzzle flip non-existent. Woo. All right, non-existent isn't exactly true, more like kind of sort of non-existent. However, as time went on, Hudson couldn't really maintain the ability to keep up with the demand for this gun. So they inevitably went out of business. And we didn't hear from them. There were a lot of people who had guns and they couldn't get parts for their guns. And then these kind of almost became collectors because there were still some floating around. You can still go online and find some today, but do so at your own peril because, like they said, there isn't that many out there and therefore there aren't that many parts for it. So if your gun goes down, you're kind of fucked. Until now, because Daniel Defense acquired Hudson. Not only did they acquire Hudson, they decided to reimagine the Hudson H9 and they created the Daniel H9, which is this. Yeah, it's back. But kind of. You see, what Daniel wanted to do is, and keep in mind, I've known about this for a very long time, if I'm just being honest. I've known about them trying to come out with this gun, and for this to be Daniel Defense's very first handgun is kind of a big deal, especially considering what they've done in the space from an AR standpoint. Now, the Daniel H9 is basically Daniel Defense looking at the Hudson H9 and saying, how can we make this better? What are some of the things that people didn't like about the Hudson H9? And then how can we improve upon it and make an even better version of the Hudson H9? And honestly, I think from what I'm looking at right now, they more or less did it. And so, for instance, you know, with the Hudson H9, you had that rail hanging down here, which did a lot of awesome things in terms of lowering the bore access, but it also made the gun look a little goofy whenever you decide to put a light on it. So what Daniel Defense did was they kind of raised it while still maintaining the same bore access. How they did that, I don't know. I'm not an engineer, I don't know. I just shoot the guns and tell you what I like and what I don't like.
All the ammo used in this video was brought to you by Nosler, maker of the most innovative, most accurate, and most effective bullets and ammunition in the industry.
What they've also done is they made the gun lighter, right? So whether the Hudson H9 was steel, this is now aluminum. Now, when the Hudson H9 came out, a lot of people were asking for an aluminum version because they liked it, but they were like, steel's kind of heavy, especially for this type of gun. So what they did was they came out with an aluminum version of it and then made it shorter and smaller. And the way I can tell this is because the Hudson H9 magazines work in this gun, but they don't, but the Daniel H9 magazines don't work in the Hudson H9 gun because this has a shorter grip, but the capacity is still the same, still 15 rounds. Then on top of that, you now have the ability to run a red dot on this bad boy. And they have a plate for all of the major, whatever the most popular red dots that are out there, they have a plate for it. And now you can run them on there. Then on top of that, you have this blacked out rear sight, this rear metal sight, and then a fiber optic front, which I like. Honestly, I kind of wish it was a night sight, a tritium night sight of sorts, largely because to me, this gun screams concealed carry multi-purpose use, meaning it could double as a concealed carry gun, could double as a home defense gun, can double, honestly, kind of as a competition gun. And the reason I say that is because of how it shoots. You see, so let's see here. First of all, this gun points phenomenally. So not only do you have less muzzle flip than most guns, it points so naturally that you almost feel like you don't even have to see the sights or look for the sights. The sights just pop up. It just gives you a very organic, it just gives you a very organic presentation. So if I'm talking to you now and I just literally go to push, that freaking fiber optic front literally just pops right up. Like, I don't have to think about it. It's a very naturally intuitive pointing gun. That is freaking nuts, and I love it. So basically, the Hudson H9 was the same way. So I'm here for it. Like yes, keep doing that. I want this gun to feel. All right, so it didn't lock back, which for me is pretty typical because I tend to ride high on the gun. So I'm riding high on this freaking goddamn slide release. Now, speaking of side release, the side release is the widest point of the gun. So that's another thing about this. This gun is super thin. It's 1 inch, technically it's 1.2 inches. However, that's from slide lock to slide lock. That's not really the part that matters when it comes to concealed carry. What matters is this grip. What is this grip doing? And what is this slide doing? And it's 1 inch. That's pretty damn thin. And considering the gun is aluminum, what you get is a beautiful balance of weight, which helps mitigate recoil, but then eliminates the weight of what you would normally get from steel, from the standpoint that it doesn't feel like a chore to carry, and it doesn't feel like a heavy gun. It just feels like a solid gun. All right, so this gun wants to run. Like, this gun, it likes to shoot fast. And everybody knows I love guns that like to shoot fast. Like, so this gun feels so good in hand. Oh man, I'm gonna tell you, for those that don't understand, when you get a gun that has a very low bore access, and by low bore access, now I'm notorious for butchering this, I'm just gonna say it, I'm notorious for it, but whatever. A low bore access means that the gun actually sits really low in your hand. So if I'm on the gun here, I'm almost covering up the entire gun. You wanna come around the other side, Peter? It's like, you see how high up on that gun I am? So what that does is it allows me to mitigate the recoil in a way. Damn, I'm out. So what that does is that allows me to easily manage the recoil of the gun. So whereas with guns that have a higher bore access, they kind of want to flip on you. But you essentially raise the center of gravity between your hand and the bore. I'm trying to sound very scientific, like I understand the engineering components of this. I don't. I just understand how it works. Whatever. Let's get the little pointy. Man. All right. I've kind of already gotten to the ergonomics largely because in my hand, like I pointed out, they have very low bore access. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that. I think I'm trying to say it over and over to prove to myself that I now can say it correctly. But in hand, this gun has a very traditional style ergonomic feel, right? It does feel the gun sits very low in your hand, but from a ergonomic standpoint, you're not gonna get that like uber ergo chair kind of feel like you would get with something like a HK P30, where it has the Batman grips and then the grooves where your fingers to fit and all that stuff. That's not a bad or a good thing. It has a very neutral ergonomic character. So anybody's gonna pick up this gun, no one's gonna pick this gun up and say, this gun feels bad in my hand, and no one's gonna pick up this gun and think, oh my God, this feels uber comfortable. Because like I said, you're just dealing with a straight 1911 angled grip. And that's just the beautiful thing about this, because in your hand, if I close my eyes and I go, what gun am I holding right now? I would swear it was a 1911. Literally. And not just because it's aluminum, but just because of the 1911 grip and the way it feels. I mean, even the actual grip plates that they have on the gun right now look like traditional style 1911 grips. That's a point of contention for me. As soon as they come out with different grip plates for this, I'm gonna replace them. Like, not that these are bad, I just feel like this gun could have a sexier character with grip plates that are less traditional. Now, to demonstrate the distinction between the size of the Hudson H9 and the Daniel H9, as you can see here, you see this is a standard 15-round magazine from the Hudson H9, which also works in the Daniel H9. But as you can see here, the magazine is sticking out a little bit because, like I said before, the Hudson H9 is a bigger gun. Whereas this gun, when I use an actual Daniel H9 magazine, as you can see there, it's flush. So that just gives you some perspective about the actual size of the gun. Now, let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about, the trigger. So, or as I like to call it, the accordion trigger. The reason I call it the accordion trigger is because it looks like a damn accordion, as you can see here. So you have the safety blade right there. Now Daniel's is kind of, they've changed it up a little bit. It actually looks a lot busier than the older H9. I'm so getting the names mixed up and they're almost the same. But they've changed it up a little bit visually, but functionally they're the same trigger, except in two ways. The Hudson H9 has a better take-up, and we're talking marginal difference. It has a better take-up, like that's your wall right there. Well, actually, it's not your wall. This is the safety blade, but I use the safety blade like my wall because there isn't much take-up after this port. Here, and I'll show you. As you see here, the safety blade, and then it goes off. Now, the Hudson H9 has a slightly better take-up. However, where the Daniel H9 vests the Hudson H9 is right there. That reset is crucial. It is short, it is positive, and it is clean. Look at that. This is nuts. Jeez, this is nuts. That trigger is good, and it doesn't, if I'm shooting slow, like here, if I'm just kind of aiming, trying to do my thing, it doesn't feel like it could go fast, but come with me. I'm just gonna take the walk down. I'm trying to find targets that don't fall when I shoot them. All right, so when you wanna run the gun fast, this bad boy runs. Hold on. Ah! Later. Because of that low bore axis, you can keep that gun on target so easily. And because it has such a natural point of aim, like I can sit here and talk to you and my fundamentals of shooting don't really have to be that good. Because it has such a natural point of aim, I can see a target point that, you know, for all the shit that I talked about with respect to this fiber optic front, when I was like, should have been a tritium. When I get on target, that thing screams. Like, it's like, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. No, I'm not missing. It's just leaned up against the actual target. Show the damn band. It's leaned up against that, so when it doesn't, you don't hear the sound. Like, shut up. All right, let's go distance. Let's see. Oh man, this gun is pleasurable to f***ing shoot. Yeah, boy. Daniel did a good job with this, man. I gotta give it to him. MSRP is $12.99. So then the question remains, is this gun worth $12.99? The reason why I think it's worth that price point is because this gun does something for me, and the Hudson H9 did something for me that a lot of handguns don't do, is it kind of inspired. Like, I love 1911s. I just did a video on the TRP 1911. I love them, but I'm no fool. They're old school. It's an old school gun. I said it in the video. It's 113 years, and it's still here. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Like I said, I'll do that in another video, but it's still an old gun. Whereas this is inspiring. There are very few guns that are just as unique, that are just inherently unique, especially if they are a striker-fired handgun. Not only that, you get that je ne sais quoi of an aluminum frame firearm that you just can't get, regardless of how many slide cuts you do, no matter how many whiz-bang gadgetry you put on the gun. It just doesn't have the same appeal as a metal frame gun. The gun I can think gets the closest to that, honestly, is maybe the HKP 30. But the trigger on the HKP 30 is shit. But nonetheless, this feels special. And not only does it feel special, it's like hard use special. So it's not something that I'm gonna baby and put inside my safe and never really shoot it that much. It's something that I'm gonna be able to come out. Jesus, this gun is splat, man. It's something I'm gonna be able to come out here and if I want to come out and just enjoy shooting, I can do that because the recoil impulse doesn't beat me to death. The gun's not trying to jump out of my hand because it's sitting so low in my hand. The gun just shoots in a manner that makes it enjoyable, while at the same time having the durability and feel of a duty-use gun, or a gun I can use to protect my life with, while still looking sexy as hell. And one thing is I skipped over the whole looks aspect of it, and even though that's a big deal to me, I like my guns to look good. Plain and simple, especially ones that I'm gonna be carrying. And I think the Daniel H9 is probably one of the best looking guns, handguns, striker-fired handguns on the market. It kind of has to be because the Hudson H9 was one of the best looking guns. Now, the Hudson H9 had a little quirkiness to it. It looked a little awkward because you had that piece hanging so low. And some people didn't really like that. I liked it, some people didn't. But what I think Daniel was able to do was to create a balance where it took the gun and it went from a kind of quirky, nice looking gun to just being a really damn good looking gun without any of the oddball quirkiness. And quirkiness isn't inherently a bad thing. The Daniel H9 from Daniel Defense, the very, very first handgun. And I gotta say, good job, guys. Good damn job.
Right now, there's a culture war against the Second Amendment, which is why I need your help spreading our message to counter their message. You can help do this by leaving a comment, sharing this video, and click the bell and subscribe button. Let my voice be your voice and let them know you want to keep America tactical, because the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed wasn't a suggestion, it was a directive. Also, if you're wondering where to purchase your AR-15s are essential, I will not comply. I am the militia, the new Draco design, and your state-specific Keep America Tactical shirt. Click the link under the Keep America Tactical in the description section of this video. Or if you're watching this on mobile, tap the small triangle on the lower right-hand side of this video and click the link in the description.